Welcome to this episode of Wiki Walks, a short podcast devoted to some of the more intriguing and, who knew, articles that you can run across in the weird world of Wikipedia. I'm your host, Chris Grismer. Well, a fine day to you, my fellow listeners. I hope you've put on your finest whaling vest and harpoon gloves, because on today's Wiki Walks we're diving into one of the most bizarre yet fascinating tales of human-animal cooperation that you'll ever hear. Much like Lassie trying to tell Timmy that some invalid turnip farmer fell down a well, this is the story of Old Tom, the killer whale who spent decades as the hired help for a family of whalers in Eden, Australia. Let's set the scene. Eden in the late 1800s was a rugged whaling outpost with dense forests separating the isolated town from the sea, where gargantuan whales migrated past each year. Well, enter the Davidson family, a clan of traditional whalers who pioneered a uniquely symbiotic relationship with a pod of killer whales led by the massive 22-foot, 6-ton bull orca dubbed Old Tom. His pod consisted of 20 to 30 orcas. While the exact number of orcas in the pod is unknown, 21 were known by name, identified by their differences in dorsal fins. Stranger, Jackson, Hookie, Humpy, Cooper, Typey, Big Ben, Young Ben, Kincher, Jimmy, Sharky, Charlie Edgerly, Brearley, Albert, Youngster, Walker, Big Jack, Little Jack, Skinner, and Montague. Many of the names were derived from deceased Aboriginal whalers. The agreement was simple. Old Tom and his crew would herd nearby baleen whales into the shallows of Twofold Bay, essentially corralling them for the Davidson whalers to swoop in and deliver the killing blows with harpoons. In the open ocean, orcas would distinguish the green rowboats of the Davidson family from the other white boats of competitors and herd the baleen whales towards them. In exchange, the orcas got to keep the fatty tongues and other rich scraps to themselves, according to the Law of Tongue. The Law of Tongue was recognized as the unspoken rule between the Eden orcas and humans. It was the ultimate you-scratch-my-back marine alliance. This cross-species partnership is made even more unbelievable by its apparent roots in indigenous Australian beliefs that the orcas were reincarnated whaler ancestors returning to help their human brethren. Old Tom's pod had distinct names and roles, with his iconic bent dorsal fin cutting an unmistakable figure as he flop-tailed on the surface to summon the whalers. For over 80 years, spanning 3 generations of Davidsons, Old Tom faithfully guided them to their quarry each migration season, until his death in 1930. His teeth had become so worn by helping pull rowboats out to sea, he would literally bite the rope and help pull them out to sea, and his teeth got so worn that he was unable to eat in his old age and starved to death. Apparently that's how a lot of orcas die, is their teeth get so worn down they can't eat anymore, and they starve. Pretty sad. But his massive skeletal remains are still on display at the Eden Killer Whale Museum to this day. It's the kind of extraordinary interspecies relationship that seems too fantastical to be true. And yet, the museum's archives and Davidson oral histories preserve a richly detailed account of a time when killer whales and human hunters united as one to tame the unforgiving waters of Twofold Bay. An orca mercenary managing to blend indigenous folklore with capitalist transaction between predators. Now that's an origin story for the ages. While Old Tom's pod may be gone, their incredible legacy as hired Aussie whalers will continue to be etched into the histories and imaginations of Eden for decades to come. So the next time you think you hear a pod of whales singing in the water, that song might actually be the work of a hired orchestra.